Welcome to In the Know. I'm your host, Dan Reith, and we are excited to bring you our Meet the Candidates for the upcoming provincial election on June 2nd. We have invited all the candidates to attend from all the major parties, and we have confirmation all will be joining us over the next several days. And we'll be replaying all the interviews for you, so you get a real opportunity to hear what the candidates have to say about them, their leader, and their platform. And as in the past, we always hope this is what you need to help you make the right decision for you come election day on June 2nd. So let's get started. Our first guest, certainly someone who we all know and who's certainly got a political past, and that is Heather Jackson, who's candidate for the Liberal Party for Elgin-Middlesex-London. Heather, welcome back. It's so great to have you back on the show, and this time again as a candidate.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Dan. It's been a while, and I'm excited to be here this morning.
So it was about 4 years ago you left public life and went back into the private world, if you will. And at that time when we chatted, you said you were done with politics. You'd had a really strong run. It was time to move on to something else. So what's brought you out of retirement, so to speak? Why are you running?
Really, I'm running because I want to see a more affordable province for our next generation. When I first got involved in politics 19 years ago, it seems like a scary number when I say that out loud. It was because of some things that were happening in the community, and I had just received the best title I've ever received, and that was aunt. So my first niece had been born, and I was looking around thinking we need to improve some things in the community to make sure that our next generation would be able to find homes in our community to, raise their children to, the next generation and move that forward. And, I had a really good run on city council and as mayor, and saw a lot of great things accomplished in this community. And this January, when Jeff Urick announced that he wasn't going to be seeking re-election in the provincial election, it really made me start to wonder again about what we could do and what we could do better in our community and across the province. My reasons really remain the same. It's but about an expanded version. That first niece has now turned into 10 nieces and nephews that live here in Ontario, and one of them, in fact, in just finishing her first year of university, and wondering what the future holds for them. We've seen a lot that has come through in the pandemic that's made life a little less affordable, and certainly made the future a little scary for folks when we're looking around public education, at our healthcare system, certainly the holes in long-term care, and as I've said a few times, affordability in general. So it's housing, but it's just affordability to live in this province. And, we're hearing from folks that are moving out of the province because they just can't afford to live here any longer. And that's not right. We have a great province, and we want to keep people here. We want to attract more people to our communities to be able to live and thrive here. And I want to represent Elgin-Middlesex-London. I've got that political experience to bring to the table, to know how things work and how to maneuver things through the system. And, I love our community. I love everything about Elgin County, born and raised here. And, I think I have some great experience and perspective from my last 3.5 years at the United Way, Elgin Middlesex, and really seeing how our agencies work and the gaps out there for folks that are struggling to make ends meet or struggling with their mental health. And, we can do a lot better, and we need to do better.
What really sticks out for you as the biggest need for Elgin-Middlesex-London? As you're going around door knocking right now, as I understand you've been doing, what are you hearing most at the door?
Most at the door is really that affordability piece. So we know housing is a huge issue here in Elgin-Middlesex-London. Affordability is a huge part of that. If you sell your house, where are you going to move to is one question. There's a lot of new builds happening, but most of those are sold before they're going up. And it's not just affordability in housing, it's affordability, when we buy our groceries, the cost of groceries has really gone up significantly, as has, the price of gas for our cars, and heating, home heating, all of those things have gone through the roof. And that's a big piece of what I'm hearing at the door from folks. That's the number one issue, is really affordability in this province. And really, a lot of people are shocked at how much, and I'm shocked as well. I go buy my groceries and go, what did we just buy when we get home? And you're not sure. You've spent the same amount maybe you've spent previously, but have fewer items for sure in the bag when you get home. So that's definitely a huge concern for us in this riding.
Let's jump into platform a bit then. And as you've touched on some topics I want to talk about, one being affordability of housing and cost of living. And one of the key tenets I see in the party platform is around rent controls.
Yes.
Rent controls have been proven in the past not to work. They don't resolve the underlying issues, which is a lack of supply. They have been proven in the past often to further strangle supply. And they have been shown by many economic studies not to solve the problem of homelessness. So how is bringing rent controls back in going to solve that problem? Or is this really intended to be a short-term opposed to a long-term solution?
So I see the rent control piece as a short-term piece out of the whole puzzle. We're seeing a lot of people that are purchasing properties, maybe from outside our community, and I was hearing this even in downtown St. Thomas. I'm hearing it in Port Stanley. I've heard it in London, that we are seeing folks from out of town buying up properties and then coming in and raising the rents. Doing reno evictions that are happening. We're seeing lots of things that shouldn't be, that are forcing people out, sometimes onto the streets, because they really don't have anywhere else to go. People's incomes have not kept up with the increasing costs of rent that we're seeing across the area. And so this will help to stop that piece and make sure that everyone that's renting is seeing the same things and the same kind of controls over their rent, so they know what to expect, and know that they have a little bit of stability in those choices as well.
If you look at the rent control issue, isn't part of the rising rent cost reflective of the costs that their rising costs landlords have to incur? And also a correlate to that is the negative result of things such as Airbnbs, where rental owners know they can make more money by pulling an apartment or a condo out of the rental market and putting it into the Airbnb market.
Yeah, that's certainly a factor to look at as well, especially when we're looking at communities like Port Stanley, where they're seeing that happen. And I've heard from a lot of folks in Port Stanley that we're not talking about the family cottage that you can borrow for a week and everyone in the family gets a chance at. Everyone vying for that top long weekend spot, right? But this, of course, we're talking about people that are buying homes and then not even living in them. They have no intention to, and they're renting them out, as you say, as a short-term rental for say Airbnb. That's putting a huge strain on what is available to rent and to lease out. So I think other communities across the province are facing this. This isn't an Elgin-Middlesex-London thing. I think, some of the suggestions that have come forward is these property owners that own these type of rentals should be looking at a commercial tax like other hotels and bed and breakfasts are paying. I think that would kind of level out some of that playing field. But overall, where the biggest issue is at the root cause of all of this is the supply issue. We can't build enough houses, and we really need to start to diversify, especially in our riding, what we're building. We see a lot of single detached family homes going up, and the reality is, I'm knocking on doors and hearing from folks that are ready to move out of their single detached home and looking for. We've got a lot of seniors in our area that are looking for that next step. They say they don't want to have to cut the grass and maintain the house anymore. So they're looking for a condo or they're looking to move into apartments. And we just don't have that availability. So really looking at those kind of supply issues, as well as finding ways to include affordable housing into every neighborhood that's built. And that has been done in the past. And I know many years ago, when I worked for the Old East Village Business Improvement Association, there was funding that was available through 3 tiers of government. So federal, municipal, and provincial were all involved. And there was funding available to renovate existing properties as well as to build new affordable housing units, because we know that the developers, as great as they are, they can't do it all out of their own pocket, and they need that support. And we've seen great things, especially in the city of St. Thomas. I think of the former Valley View site, which was a great proponent of, receiving funds from that partnership, really, with the federal, provincial, and municipal governments to be able to put those properties, those buildings up on that former site, and keep the rents low for folks to be able to afford. So that those need to be mixed into all of our housing developments, and we need to find a way to do that, to make sure that we've got a good supply of all different kinds of housing for everyone, no matter where you are on that housing continuum and what you're looking for, that you're able to find a place with reasonable rent that you can have stability in as well. A lot of renters are scared that somebody's going to come in and buy up their property, and reno-eviction is going to happen, or they're going to want to live in the property themselves, which does happen. People buy the buildings and the property sometimes to move into themselves. So, people are scared out there of what's going to happen, because there's just not that stability right now.
When I read through the platform and you talk about affordability, I'm not seeing anything around reducing the cost of electricity, reducing the cost of natural gas to heat our homes. I'm not seeing anything about reducing income taxes or reducing fees to consumers, or reducing the cost of gasoline by reducing provincial taxation on gasoline. Those are all things that would certainly help as well. Are they somewhere on the platform, or they're just not been addressed? And is that something that you would propose or go forward with if you were elected?
With the platform just being released yesterday, I will be completely honest, I haven't had time to dig 100% into it. So I've done my best last night after a day of knocking on doors. But that's on my agenda this morning as well to go through. And I know some of those are not in our platform, but they are certainly things that will create affordable living for others, and certainly pieces that need to be brought forward as we move forward. And if elected, that is something that I would certainly bring forward. We want to keep people in their homes, and we want people to be, like I said, have that stability. So not only is it our rent, as you said, we know that it costs more to turn on the lights and to heat our homes with natural gas as well. So those are all pieces that need to be considered when we're looking at affordability.
I'm going to jump to healthcare. Obviously, that's one of the biggest expenses the province has. And in the Liberal platform, it's calling for the hiring of 100,000 new nurses, doctors, and other healthcare workers. How are we doing that? We don't turn out that many nurses, doctors, and other healthcare practitioners. Our universities and colleges haven't enhanced the number of graduates in over 20 years. How do we suddenly find 100,000 practitioners?
There's a couple ways we're going to do that. We're going to achieve that. Of course, we've got those new graduates that we're looking to place, and it's great. We've seen an increase in folks that are going through nursing and those kind of programs. So it's wonderful to see that. We're looking to attract folks back to the jobs that they have given up. Some folks have, as we know, have left the healthcare industry just because they're feeling so burnt out and unsupported. And they've had a lot on their plates the last couple of years. And I fully understand why folks are feeling this kind of need to move on to something else and to deal with their own mental health that has suffered through 2 years of a pandemic, which is not something anyone ever saw on the horizon, right? Another piece is through immigration. So we want to attract others from other provinces that are in the healthcare field, and really want to look at getting those that are foreign trained up to speed. And how can we do that in a more efficient manner? Someone that's a trained physician in their home country shouldn't move here to now be driving a cab or to some other kind of job that is completely outside of what they have been trained for. So we're not suggesting rushing through any of those trainings, but how can we find efficiencies and getting folks trained to our level of standards here in the province of Ontario and get them into the healthcare system? So there's ways to do that. And I think we need to put a real big push on that. We have a lot of folks that have moved here, and we know we're going to see others that are coming here to settle, especially with the Ukraine crisis and some other things happening in the global world that are going on right now. And Canada's always been that place to go and place people strive to be in. And Ontario is certainly a province that will welcome those folks that are seeking a new life and bring their talents and trades to our province. So let's not only fund them housing and reunite them with their families once they get here, but let's get their training that they've worked so hard to and hard to achieve in their own countries. Let's see what we need to do a little more efficiently and get them through the process here so we can get them in our hospitals and in our healthcare settings.
Well, look at senior care, and particularly the point on long-term care. I know long-term care, we could have an entire hour show on around the warehousing of seniors and whatnot, which is pretty much what it's come down to. But the platform calls for the bringing an end to for-profit healthcare, which I'm curious how that's going to happen, because one of the largest for-profit long-term home care providers in Ontario is the Federal Employees Pension Fund. So curious how that's going to occur. But the big question I have for you is, how are you going to create 58,000 not-for-profit long-term care spaces? In terms of just pure construction, we can't build enough housing for everybody else. How can we build 58,000 not-for-profit long-term care spaces? How long is that going to take, and is it realistic?
I think it's realistic. It will take a number of years to achieve that, but it is something that we know is definitely needed. We want to end the for-profit healthcare. Just as the pandemic was starting, my grandmother was in our local Valley View home in St. Thomas, and she was receiving excellent care. And she passed away just before the pandemic started. I honestly don't know that she would have lasted very long into the pandemic without being able to see her family. I think it would have been a bit much. And so I'm grateful for that aspect of it. But she received excellent top-notch care there. I have a family member whose grandmother was in a for-profit care center throughout most of the pandemic. And we saw them in lockdowns, in their rooms, not getting, they're getting their meals, but not any kind of snacks, all of those kind of things, not allowed visitors. And the level of care was just different. And it was a lot to do with folks not being able to come in because they were sick themselves, and not having the staffing supply to bring them on. I saw incredible differences in the care, not in the care received from the individuals that were giving the care, but just in the standards that were acceptable between nonprofit and for-profit. So I've seen that firsthand, and I believe that we need to have that nonprofit model. And we'll work with the for-profit, all the for-profit ones to get them turned over to a nonprofit model. We know it's not going to be easy, and there'll be some pushback as expected. And building the new beds is going to be difficult, but we know it's desperately needed. And it's another piece of that housing puzzle. We want to be able to keep people in their homes as long as we can. And that's what folks want. We know that people would rather stay at home. My grandma Jackson was, she was 99 and still living at home, and she lived at home just until, shortly before she passed. And that's what folks want. They want to be able to stay in their own home. So we want to make that happen. And when we talk about those 58,000 new spaces, we're not talking about huge facilities. We want to get them down to smaller scale, so that it feels more like a home setting as well too. So you're right, it's going to have its challenges, but it is doable. Everything's doable.
I unfortunately have to stop you there. I'm being told we have to go to break. We'll be right back. And welcome back to In the Know. I'm your host, Dan Reith, and in this episode of Meet the Candidate, we are visiting with Heather Jackson, candidate for the Liberal Party of Elgin-Middlesex-London. Heather, we're in the platform section. We're down to our last 9 minutes. We're having to go a bit of a lightning round here. I want to talk about education and training. One thing really stood out to me: the Liberal Party proposes to cap all classes at 20 students. You're going to hire 10,000 teachers. We haven't turned out 10,000 teachers in probably decades in this province, because the schools just don't allow that many to graduate. Latest statistics I find, less than 2% of eligible teachers are currently unemployed. Where are we finding 10,000 teachers, and how long is this actually going to take place, or how long will it take for this promise to be delivered upon?
Yeah, so this one is another really important piece for me as well. Education has really suffered. The education, especially of our young children in elementary school, has really, really suffered throughout the pandemic. And online schooling is not for every child, and we've certainly discovered that, and not for every teacher, as they were kind of bumped all of a sudden to this new reality of virtual school. It's not really what some had signed up for. So we've seen some folks leaving as well in the education sector, same as healthcare. 10,000, again, we do have folks out there that have education degrees and that have degrees and the ability to teach. Teachers College has gone to a 2-year program, so perhaps maybe looking at that, and can we go back to a 1-year program on that to get folks trained and through the program faster. As well, we've got teachers from other provinces that are moving here. Ontario is a really desirable place to live and to raise a family and to be. So we know we've got lots of folks that want to be here and want to be part of our education system. So it is doable. Again, it's going to take some time, but you know, education, as I said, especially for our youth, is so important. As I said at the start, I've got 10 nieces and nephews in education in somewhere either in elementary, high school, or university level. And I've watched all of them struggle at different times throughout the pandemic as well. My sister's a teacher, and I hear the struggles from her side as well, from her and her staff, and know that there's too many kids in a classroom right now. And that's why we're looking at a hard cap of 20. I was hearing from somebody yesterday that was door knocking with me and said he's in a class, one of his classes has 30 kids in it. And he said it's so hard to get the attention from the teacher to be able to ask for kind of one-on-one support, those kind of things. So it's really tough for these kids, and not just the kids, but their parents who have become educators. I know my mom is teaching grade 5 right now, as we have one of my nieces wasn't doing well at all with the flipping back and forth, and has decided to stay in online school, and she's doing phenomenally well. But that means grandma is teaching on the sidelines, and we know that's happening a lot in a lot of places. And we need to get back into the classroom. Kids need to be in the classroom. That's where they learn best. We need the teachers, but we also need the support workers for them as well. So we're also looking at hiring the support staff, especially mental health support staff. There's been a lot of struggles with kids, and they're really feeling it, and in some cases acting out because they just don't know how else to deal with their emotions and how they're feeling. So these are really important, that we get these teachers on board, that we reduce these class sizes so the kids get the attention that they need, and we will find the teachers. It's a big number, but we will find them.
Platform talks about safer communities, and one line strikes me as interesting. You need to feel safe in your community. I feel safe in my community. But then it goes on to talk about the need to ban handguns. Do you support a ban on legal handguns?
If I was elected and this came as a question, I would not support this. I don't believe that legal handguns are the problem. Most of the gun incidents and gun violence that we're seeing across the province is centered around the Toronto area. We know that. We are seeing some in London as well. But not every policy and platform piece is going to resonate as well here in Southwestern Ontario as it does maybe in the GTHA. This is one of those pieces, and we know that it's not legal guns that are being used in these violent situations, save and except maybe 2 or 3 recently in Toronto that were used, that legal guns were used in the violent situations. For me, that's I don't believe it's going to solve the problem. But it is in there because it is a concern of others in the province, and this is a provincial platform. So saying that, I know that there are pieces that will resonate more here, and some that, like this one, that just is not really something that's a huge concern for us here in Elgin-Middlesex-London.
I want to ask about Stephen Del Duca briefly. Lots of articles about the baggage he carries from his time as Wynn's right hand, working with Kathleen Wynne in the previous Liberal government. What do you say to people who say he's just Wynne baggage? He's not the right leader for the province of Ontario.
I strongly disagree. So he is surrounded by an entirely new party. There, as everyone knows, in 2018, the party was decimated at the polls and only had 7 seats in the legislature. And only 4 of those are returning this time around to run. And so we see that happening. That meant that everybody else is new and everybody else has stepped forward. And to achieve our platform and to put our platform together, called A Place to Grow. So you can sing that song all day in your head, because we all know that old commercial. I know I heard Jeff Urick sing it once or twice at different events, and I'm not going to sing it for you today, but it was the largest and most open consultation process in Ontario Liberal history to pull together our platform. So there was all kinds of public meetings, on a lot of it done by Zoom because we were in the midst of the pandemic. And we put together the platform based on what people were saying. So he has had to listen as well as the rest of us on putting this new platform together and hearing from the province and what they want in it.
We're down to our last 2 minutes, and I want to tell you. So I'm going to do my wrap up and say thank you very much for joining us. On behalf of Riders, we wish you absolutely all the success with your campaign and door knocking, everything that has to go into it. And hopefully the outcome on June 2nd is what you're hoping for. And to our viewers, if you have any questions, you can go to ontarioliberal.ca to see the platform and learn more about Heather. As we take us out, Heather, tell our viewers why Heather Jackson, Liberal candidate, is the right choice on June 2nd.
I am the right choice for our riding. I am the only candidate that brings the political experience to the table, having spent 15 years on St. Thomas City Council, 8 as your mayor. I will bring our voice of rural Ontario to the community, from our community to Queen's Park, and fight for what we deserve here in Elgin-Middlesex-London in southwestern Ontario.
Okay, you even left me some time. Thank you. Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Heather, for joining us again. We wish you all the best of luck with your campaign. To our viewers, hopefully we've helped you understand a little bit more about the Liberal platform and the candidate. And now you are in the know. Take care.